Reacher Season 3's new villain could eat Alan Ritchson for lunch. Amazon Prime Video's Reacher has already made a name for itself by successfully bringing Lee Child's beloved book characters to life with spot-on casting. The towering and wholesome Alan Ritchson has perfectly embodied the titular role of Jack Reacher, and with Season 3 on the horizon, the series looks like it's going to continue this trend. Now, gearing up for its next season, Reacher has just revealed the casting for a critical role from the book Persuader, and fans will be delighted with the choice. Reacher Season 3 is set to adapt Persuader, one of the most intense entries in Lee Child's series. Set against the backdrop of Maine's rugged coastline, the plot sends Reacher undercover in the fortress-like home of the enigmatic Zachary Beck, played by Anthony Michael Hall, whose life is shrouded in paranoia and danger, resulting in surrounding himself with an army of well-trained bodyguards to protect his family. Among those bodyguards is Polly, a character so immense he even makes Reacher look up. Described in Child's books as a very big guy, towering over Reacher with a daunting physical presence, finding the right actor to fill these shoes was no small feat. Enter Olivia Richters, affectionately known as the Dutch Giant. Standing at 7 feet, 2 inches, Richters is no stranger to roles that require his impressive stature, having appeared in Black Widow and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. In the novel, Polly is described in quite terrifying fashion. He was a very big guy. I stand 6 feet 5 inches tall, and have to center myself quite carefully to walk through a standard 30-inch doorway. This guy was at least 6 inches taller than me and probably 10 inches wider across the shoulders. He probably outweighed me by 200 pounds. Maybe by more. What will Reacher's new villain be like? In a recent interview with Hall conducted by Cinema Blend promoting his film Trigger Warning, he shared insights on Richter's casting, drawing an intriguing comparison to a classic James Bond villain. He reminds me of Jaws from The Spy Who Loved Me. He was a literal giant, like 7'2". That character, Polly, does live in the show, and they have an epic battle. I don't want to give it away, but yeah, they definitely meet as they do in the book. You know, Reacher and Polly colliding. It's something Marvel about that, right? They're like two superhero-sized guys, so it's kind of cool. Indeed, if the series stays true to the source material, viewers can expect an epic confrontation that could stand as one of the most memorable fight scenes in television history. While the exact release date for Reacher Season 3 isn't with us yet, anticipation is already building for 2025. Stay tuned for more details on Reacher Season 3 as they emerge. Reacher Season 3 is shaping up to be an electrifying addition to the franchise, with speculation swirling about a new villain who could be the most formidable adversary Jack Reacher has ever faced. Alan Ritchson's portrayal of the towering, tough-as-nails ex-military police officer in the first 2 seasons captured the essence of Lee Child's beloved literary character, a man who navigates the world alone, armed with his wits, combat skills, and a deep sense of justice. However, in the upcoming 3rd season, rumors suggest that Reacher may have finally met his match. If the whispers are true, this new villain could not only challenge Reacher's physical prowess, but also push him to his limits psychologically. The idea of a villain who could eat Alan Ritchson for lunch is a tantalizing prospect, not just because of the implied physical threat, but because it suggests a level of cunning and complexity that could elevate the series to new heights. Season 2, based on Bad Luck and Trouble, introduced Reacher to enemies who operated as a tight-knit, military-trained group. While they provided a solid challenge, there's a growing sense that Season 3's villain will be a different beast, entirely someone who combines physical menace with intellectual sophistication, a perfect foil to Reacher's brute strength and sharp mind. Raising the stakes throughout the first 2 seasons of Reacher, fans have seen Reacher take on adversaries with deadly efficiency. He's outsmarted and outfought a corrupt police force, shadowy hitmen, and well-organized criminal enterprises. In all of these conflicts, the central tension comes from Reacher being underestimated. His opponents, whether they're thugs or masterminds, tend to see him as a blunt instrument, just a large man with fists like sledgehammers. By the time they realize that Reacher is also calculating and methodical, it's usually too late. The introduction of a villain who can challenge Reacher, not just physically but intellectually, offers a refreshing twist. Reacher's lone wolf style of dispensing justice has worked so far because he's always been smarter than his enemies, even when they seem to hold all the cards. But what if Season 3's villain is one step ahead of Reacher, always anticipating his moves, always prepared for his brand of unrelenting, straightforward brutality. This dynamic could force Reacher to evolve, pushing him into a corner where his usual tactics won't suffice. If Reacher finds himself up against a villain who is just as dangerous in hand-to-hand combat, but also possesses a deep understanding of human psychology or military strategy, it could create some of the most intense, edge-of-your-seat moments the series has ever seen. The villain's profile. So, who could this villain be? Season 3 is reportedly adapting The Enemy, one of Lee Child's earlier Reacher novels that focuses heavily on Reacher's military past. This opens the door to a villain who comes from Reacher's own background, someone who knows his weaknesses and can exploit his history. The antagonist might be another military man, perhaps a former superior officer or a disgraced soldier with a personal vendetta. This would put the villain on equal footing with Reacher in terms of combat experience, but with the added layer of insider knowledge about Reacher's methods. One compelling possibility is that the villain could be a corrupt, high-ranking military official using their power and resources to manipulate events from the shadows. A puppet master who has access to government-level intelligence and tactical teams who can pull strings to set Reacher up for failure would make for a thrilling narrative. This kind of opponent would challenge Reacher's instincts, forcing him to question every move and every ally. Alternatively, the villain could be someone Reacher has wronged in the past, a ghost from his military career seeking revenge. This personal connection would give the villain a psychological edge, making the battle as much about mind games as it is about brute force. Reacher's vulnerabilities, particularly his lone wolf mentality and distrust of authority, could be exploited in ways that leave him isolated and vulnerable for the first time. Psychological warfare. The most exciting aspect of a truly dangerous villain isn't just their physicality, it's the way they get inside the hero's head. For all of Reacher's calm under pressure, he is still driven by an unwavering sense of justice that can sometimes blind him to more complex moral landscapes. A villain who can exploit Reacher's black and white worldview, manipulating him into making mistakes or questioning his own code, could create a deeply engaging conflict. Reacher's strength has always been his ability to keep a cool head while his enemies unravel under the pressure. But imagine a villain who thrives in chaos, who can turn Reacher's psychological weapons against him. This could be someone who lays elaborate traps, not just to hurt Reacher physically, but to dismantle his confidence and unravel his stoic exterior. A battle of wits could be even more satisfying than a battle of fists, particularly if this villain can stay one step ahead of Reacher for most of the season, keeping viewers guessing about how or even if Reacher will prevail. A new kind of conflict. Ultimately, what could make Season 3's villain truly terrifying isn't just their ability to eat Alan Ritchson for lunch in a physical fight. It's the idea that they could do it emotionally and mentally as well. Reacher has always been the immovable object to his enemies' unstoppable force. But what happens when he encounters someone who can move him, someone who understands what makes him tick and uses that knowledge to break him down? For the first time, we could see a Reacher who isn't in control of the situation, who has to rely on others or even question his own instincts. This new level of conflict could push the show into deeper, more complex territory, exploring the emotional toll that Reacher's nomadic,